Actually, funny you say Tottenham, but our guest today is a massive United fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Brian Connolly. He's proper mank as well. He's not like me. He lives there and everything.
He lives there.
But actually, he's from there.
Hold on a second. We're doing a whole remote episode today, and he couldn't be bothered to come down from Manchester.
Well, it's because he's in fucking New York.
Fucking New York.
Sorry,
Manchester's so nice that he moved to New York 12 years ago to further
well,
his
actually,
career.
did Manchester, London, and then New York. So Brian Connolly is a lovely man, first and foremost, very talented guy, and he's done loads of brilliant billboards. I'd forgotten just how pure and beautiful his work is. So we're going to talk about those today, and then talk a little bit about
one of the classic FM one. We're going to talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. They're beautiful. I mean, a lot of his work is just it's stunning, and it's. I have to say, I had no idea he was in New York. So I think.
Did you think he was coming into the studio today?
Yeah, fucking hell, where's Brian? So we've got limited time, so I think we'll have to quickly
dial up the Zoom.
Dial it up, motherfucker. Brian Connolly, multi-award-winning creative and supporter of the greatest team in the world for one day a season.
You're a Spurs fan. I thought he was a United fan.
Yeah, long life Spurs supporter.
Brian, welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on, mate. So all the listeners know this is a remote episode. Brian is in New York and Dan and I are in the studio.
We're not remote. We're here. We're here in person.
We're
it's
in
great.
London. Yeah, it's actually nice to see you.
We should have flown out to New York, really.
Yeah, Dan actually hangs out in New York, Brian, because he's got an office out there.
That would have been a lot. Oh, really? That would have been a lot nicer for you both, definitely.
I'm not allowed, mate. He's not allowed me to Cannes either. He's off to Cannes next week.
You know what? He's not a good traveller. He walks around in his pants and he puts a handkerchief on his head. He's that now available in Cannes ad. That's what he is.
True to form.
Right, Brian, before we get into it, we're going to have to do the a few Brian facts. Brian facts. So this is always a homage to Adam Buxton's section on his show where he bigs people up and we've sort of ripped it off. But basically, Brian has won over 50 global awards, including 4 D&AD graphite pencils, 21 D&AD wood pencils, and 7 Cannes Lions of all sorts of different colours. Brian's worked at some of the most famous agencies in the world and is probably currently still. We're going to find out. But notably was head of art at Sargent Ogilvy, two huge positions there, brilliant agencies. Brian has written some ace billboards. That's why he's on the show. That's why we're going to chat. But also, I did remember in the sort of recesses of my mind, BAFTA. And I kept thinking, Brian's won a BAFTA. And I thought, no, he hasn't. That's mad. And then I did a bit more digging and you have for a Foster's TV ad, which is really funny. So we should talk about that in a bit. But how are you? Tell us what you're doing over there in New York.
Yeah, I'm very well. That's a very nice intro. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, we've been practicing.
That. Yeah, I've been in the States now. I've been in New York for 12 years, which is bizarre because it's not buying. Sometimes I still pinch myself that I'm actually living here. But since I've been here, I've worked for a number of agencies. At the moment now, I'm working for Havas Health in New York.
Right.
I moved to the health side of the business a few years ago because I found it really sort of an interesting space from a creative point of view. We don't really have that. I know it's changed a lot now in the UK, but when I was working in the UK, we didn't really have a lot of health advertising, especially the way it's done in the US, which is more sort of marketing of treatment and drug treatments. So I don't know if that's changed in the UK, but because I remember it being more health awareness.
Yeah,
it's still the same in the UK. Yeah, and I think because of the drug legislations and the way the different health systems work, it's very different in the US, isn't it? We actually talked about that on a previous episode. So
we had Phil and Graham talking a bit about pharma,
some pharma stuff.
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? It's massive over there.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, what's really interesting about it? I mean, after working for years on airlines and booze and cars and whatever. I mean, what's nice about it is you feel like it's a little bit more worthwhile than selling cars or selling booze.
It's funny. That's what Phil and Graham said.
Change people's lives.
Yeah, no, very much.
Yeah. It feels a little bit rewarding.
Yeah. I mean, you should. We had this convo with Phil and Greg because I worked on the NHS for a couple of years at Mullen, and it shouldn't feel different because you should be doing a brilliant job for any client. That's what you're paid for. But you can't refuse. You can't. Your brain can't not think that this is going to actually change someone's life, an important bit of their life, not because they want a yogurt.
Yeah. No, Yeah, no, I
you
agree.
hate yogurt, don't you? You always bring up yogurt brands. I think it's really, you're really mean. There are people doing some great yogurt ads, by the way.
By the way, it's called yogurt here.
Yeah, exactly.
How'd you say
yogurt?
It? Say again.
Yogurt.
I do say yogurt, and people go, "What?"
Yeah. So I was.
Sorry.
No, go on. No. Well, I was going to ask because on a personal level, I worked with you at Saatchi and Saatchi briefly, and we all sort of we all still know each other and keep in contact. But I haven't seen you for ages, so it's lovely to see you. And can I say you look incredibly well? You're looking like some sort of triathlete superstar. Not that you didn't look like that before.
No, it's McCanny. I don't know what I looked like before, but it's all AI now.
Yeah, is this Brian Connolly we're looking at?
Yeah, it's not the real me.
Very good, mate.
No, of course not. Yes, I don't know what. God knows what I looked like before. I was like some kind of giant blob or something. But
no, you just look very fit.
Keeping health, like you keep yourself healthy, swimming and doing your whole thing. So,
but then I do all the other things on the side. So.
He's got a side interest in vices.
Anyway, moving on.
Right. So before we get into, we're going to try and get through 6 of yours today with the amazing billboards that you've worked on. But before we do, everyone's favourite segment, which is the billboard at the end of my street. So you've sent us a belter, it looks like,
or block, end of your block. Is that right?
Yeah, it's quite difficult in Manhattan because there's not many billboards. I mean, unless you're walking over the Times Square, which I'm not that far away. But it tends to be digital billboards or smaller billboards. I call them billboards. They're like almost kiosks now.
Yeah,
right.
They have these bulletins. We're looking at one that's on the side of a street vendor, isn't it? They're the JCDecaux units that are on there. The landscape JCDecaux units on the side of the newsstands.
Yeah. Do you want to describe this piece of work to us, Brian? I know it's not yours. It's just at the end of your block. So just tell us what it is.
Yeah,
can you see it? Have you got it?
I haven't got it in front of me.
It says, "Be a rock star of business." Obviously, brilliant line.
Be a rock star of business.
And then there's a guy on stage, and it looks like he's got a suit on, and underneath it says, "Finance
and HR on one epic platform."
Fucking yes,
Workday.
Right. Yes, I have no idea what it's about and what it's for, to be honest with you. I was walking around and I saw that and I thought it was quite a dramatic headline.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what Workday is now.
It's I know this. We actually had this brief. It's not ours.
Right.
No.
You've got to earn your money, Dan. If that is your headline, you can say.
No, not ours. Can't take the credit for this one. It is financial HR software for small and medium-sized businesses. So,
right.
There you go. Fantastic. Maybe that should be
business-to-business advertising, I think.
That should be the bottom of the poster. Probably tell me what it's for, but I probably should know.
Yeah, no call to action. Obviously, assuming people are just going to Google what the hell Workday is if they didn't know what it was,
or not.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. It was simple. It was clean. It was. I suppose it was an interesting. I suppose I took it because it was there was 4 or 5 actually images, digital image swiping on that particular site.
Oh yeah, they scroll through, don't they? They've got kind of like 7 or 10 seconds each on those units.
Yeah. But I thought it was wasn't the greatest poster of all time, but at least it had a.
Well, no, I mean, joking aside, we have seen some shockers, and like I said, it's relatively clean. It has some sort of semblance of order. There's only 3 typefaces. Or 2, maybe.
Yes, exactly. And
it's part of a bigger campaign for theirs as well. I think it's like there's like they've seen iterations of this across other medium as well. The question, and Dan will know more about this than me as well. But as a creative person, so you've been there 12 years now. Do you feel is it different? The outdoor, just generally the approach to outdoor. Is it got that reverence that we attach to it, or is it less so, or what's the vibe over when you work?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, personally, I haven't worked on a lot of outdoor. When I was at DDB when I first came here, I worked on a little bit more outdoor. I think it feels less and less from well, especially from in healthcare, maybe a little bit less. It just depends. I mean, I think a lot of outdoor are trying to make them more digital and more interactive outdoor, or they're just they're just a little bit of noise. They're not really, not the same as when we're doing poster sites in the UK, because I believe there's a lot more poster sites in the UK. You look at what Neil's is doing at Uncommon. With big, they were everywhere. I mean, we have in the UK, we have cross tracks, obviously in the underground. A great place for not just cross tracks but also posters. I mean, there's posters in the subway here, but I haven't worked on that many. But I look at the awards, and there's still quite a few, but they seem few and far between, especially when I say there's not many poster sites in Manhattan. But of course, that's just Manhattan. I mean, I remember a poster campaign for the New York Times that Dave Droga did a few years ago, and it was covering the whole of Times Square with amazing headlines about finding the truth. But I mean, I think they can do it. I think it's just different formats now, and I think they're going to be a bit more interactive than some of the stuff that we do in the UK.
And I think it's we've talked about this briefly before in the US. It's such a when you compare the US to the UK, it's not fair. You can compare the US to Europe.
Okay.
You've got major cities, and then you've got lots of small towns and driving and different audiences. And the way that people move around different cities is very, very different. New York, very subterranean. Everyone's on the subway, taxis. There's not as much roadside advertising, versus Miami, where there's lots, everyone's car traffic. LA, everyone car traffic, everything's roadside. There's no subterranean transit. Is very different.
That's really interesting.
I think when you're planning media and creative across the US multi-markets, you have to really think about how the audience is going to pick up on it. So certainly for us, when media plans come over from the planning teams, you go, okay, this is probably how I'd target in Chicago and New York, but I'm going to do it very different in Miami and Philadelphia and LA.
Wow!
Because of the way that people are driving around, car audience.
I agree. I think from state to state, it's very culturally different.
Yeah,
and I think in the UK, because we all we have the same sort of culture. You could do a poster campaign that everyone gets and everyone understands, and you could have a nod to the past, and or as it's the same when you're doing, TV commercials or something, or content. You have a piece of music that everyone sort of can remember from the past. But here, it's so different, as you quite rightly said.
And I think even across Europe, you could legit run, while you'd need it translated, you could legit run the same campaign in London, Berlin, Paris, Madrid, Lisbon, because very similar audience, heavy concentration in the central districts. You could run that same campaign everywhere. In fact, we did for North Face recently. Right. We ran the same campaign in multiple cities. But as soon as you go outside of those major cities, you want to hit Bristol. It's going to be different. If you want to hit, Manchester, very similar to London. Birmingham, very similar to London. But Newcastle's different again.
Yeah.
So and Leeds different. So I think once you get outside of the capital cities, you start to have to think a bit more about how you're going to communicate and how you're going to get people involved in the ad.
Yeah, I mean, in New York, especially because New York is like, in a way, it's completely different from any other place in America, isn't it? Yeah. It's like London a little bit, and that's really interesting. I mean, it sort of feels like you want to talk about it even more, but I think, we should probably
move on to some work.
Move on to your work. So, Brian, I think you know the format loosely of the show, but we asked for your first billboard the other day, but then you said actually it could be the Eurostar work. So what we're going to do, we're going to fold those two little sections together here and talk about the Eurostar. So I have to say this now. I was trying to think of words to describe this, so you're going to blush here, but it's just one of the most beautiful, simple posters we have ever seen. Or anyone would have said it's fucking brilliant. It's still effing brilliant. It oozes class, art directional class, idea. I mean, I wrote this line, please tell us the huge amount of pain that went into arriving at something so simple. Was there a huge amount of pain, or are you just going to tell us, it just popped into my head and that was it? What was the journey?
Well, it was... Thank you. It's very kind of you again. It was. I mean, it obviously started with an amazing brief, and the brief was, the launch of a train that goes from the centre of London to the centre of Paris, and also to the centre of Brussels, the centre of Brussels as well. So it was amazing. It was a first. It was something that obviously had never been done before. So. And we also had a great client. The client was really interested in doing. Obviously, it was a multimedia campaign, but they obviously wanted posters, and posters was something that we all loved and wanted to do. Again, we immersed ourselves into the brand itself. They loved the train. The train was an amazing train. I went on the train many times just to experience the actual journey itself. It looked like a bullet train. It'd never been seen. A train like that had never been seen in the UK ever. So it was that was all great, and it was quite interesting because at some point we thought, are you going to want to talk about how great this train looks and the speed of it, how beautiful it was? Because that's something they spent millions on.
Yeah.
And there was some of that ended up being in the whole campaign. But I think from my point of view, it was always, and again, this is my take on a post, that everything should be really distilled down to what the idea is and what's the story you're trying to tell. And with this, it was I don't know, it's a strange one, but we had multiple trips to Paris on the train just to experience it. Stayed in hotels and got trains back and whatever. But also spent a couple of days walking around Paris, and which sounds terrible, doesn't it? I mean, it sounds what a terrible job.
Someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it. And I remember sort of thinking, just it's always in the back of your mind, what's the essence of this post? What is the idea? And I kept thinking, it's a train that goes from, kept replaying that in my mind. And I remember, and this might sound really bizarre, but I do remember standing looking up the Eiffel Tower one day. I was walking around it. I'd looked at it many, many times. And then one day I was looking up at it, and I don't know whether I'd been on absinthe the night before. I remember
very Parisian.
You're very Parisian. I was looking up and I looked at the perspective of it. And then I was the angle I was looking at, and I remember seeing the two, there's four giant legs, but I was standing in front of, there was like two coming towards me, and there were these two big metal pieces, and I thought, oh my God, that could be like train rails or train tracks.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, yeah, maybe. And I had it in my head, and later on I went back to the hotel, and I sketched it.
Right.
I sketched it. I know it sounds like a table, but I did sketch a little rough, and it was very simple. I thought, it's so simple.
Please tell me you still got that sketch.
I've not got that sketch.
Maybe pretend to find it. Send it.
You redo it for us.
But it's probably a terrible drawing. I think that I got the perspective wrong and everything. But I think when you get something like that and you draw it, or it pops into your mind, you think, God, it's so, when you capture the essence of what this is. Mm-hmm. And it's so simple. I remember going back and showing my writer at the time, and it was just
Jonathan Budds? Yeah,
it was Jonathan Budds at the time. And then we had to do another one. We had to do Brussels, which was slightly harder, but we tried to keep the same thing with Brussels. But we did, instead of pebbles on, they had the stones on the track.
I mean, just go back for a minute to the Eiffel Tower one, because it's sort of. Did you do loads of others? Were you? Because that thing about the train, I can imagine someone going. I go, where's my fucking train?
Yeah, we did, and we did it. We didn't do that many, to be honest with you. I can't remember now, but I remember having this, and we had to stick a picture of the train.
Dan's just pointed that there is a tiny one on the bottom left.
I had to stick a train, and the client was amazing. Yeah.
The client was what? Sorry.
Look at the train, and I said, sorry, the client was he was great. He really wanted to really capture the essence of what this story was, and where I think a lot of people underneath him were really, wanted to show a picture of this train, how great this train was. I think he understood it was capturing the spirit and what this journey was all about. So we agreed that we'd put a picture of the train, somewhere. And so I stuck it at the bottom. I put a holding panel at the bottom, which I don't love those things, but and it just had the train there, which he was very happy with. It wasn't the biggest picture of the train, but I think he was great. It was obviously a client who was on our side, which is fantastic. So we kept it as pure as we could do, just with the logo on the train. So
how was it? Wanted to ask you. The photographer is someone called Arno Overbeek. So obviously it's a comp. Tell us how did you put it together?
Well, what happened was I Arnie was doing some nice work at the time, so I didn't need to go to Paris with him, but I did in the end. I said, go to Paris, and we showed him the comp and said, can you shoot the Eiffel Tower in different ways and get this perspective right? And he actually came back and he had the concept sheet because we obviously it wasn't digital then, and he'd got the angle wrong, so we had to find it out again.
You're joking.
I know, it's bizarre. I know. I had to get multiple angles, and there was something wrong with how he did it. I can't even explain. It sounds really obvious. That obvious to shoot it. So we went out again and then we shot it. And then he was Dutch, so he shot some train tracks in Holland or somewhere. Obviously, it was incredibly flat. And then we comped them both. We comped them both together. We just had to make sure that the metal was lined up and just those sort of things. Really, I mean, it was a simple little bit of retouching. You would have thought, but I think getting the legs and the train tracks, getting the right perspective and everything was probably more difficult than we actually expected.
No, it was so good.
A really complicated comp.
I mean, you could. I have to say, for me, it just makes me excited. Thinking, shit, yeah, I wouldn't mind going to Paris. Look at that. You get on a train, and then you get to the Eiffel Tower, and it's really exciting. Whereas if you showed me a picture of a train and says, you'll be in the middle of Paris in 2.5 hours, you think, all right, looks a bit
I mean,
boring.
You could show pictures of great shots of Paris. No,
because for me, the journey is there's a famous quote which I'm now going to forget. I should know, but life isn't about the end. It's the journey, and it's
not the destination; it's the journey.
And the thing about going to Paris is, now you've got this amazing thing that goes underwater. I mean, I always used to joke with my kids going, oh, look, if you pull the window back, you might see some fish. Of course you won't. But it's the thought of that is possible. That is what's
it's the romance of it, isn't it? It was when Eurostar launched, it was new. So it's
just spectacular.
It is a nice, the romance of train travel is still there. Huh?
Yeah, and it's just an iconic image. And I think what also was sort of lucky about it really was the idea of the train taking straight into Paris. So it was, they were literally connected.
Yeah.
So it worked on that
right
level.
When
you post-analysed it.
Yeah, and just briefly on the Brussels, so it's quite funny. I was just trying to think, how would you then, did they say, oh, what about Nice? What about Amsterdam?
No, that would have been difficult. I mean, it was lucky to even...
Amsterdam could have loads of cigarette butts or syringes.
That was just spliffs on the side. But I mean, it was a little bit of a stretch, and it was slightly more tongue-in-cheek because obviously you don't get Brussels sprouts from Brussels. But again, it was we wanted to keep the idea of the train track just as a. I mean,
funny thing is, and I'm not doing a disservice, the Brussels execution just makes the Paris one just look even better in a certain respect, And I mean, I wasn't sure. I don't know how many awards it won, but I hope it won loads because it's absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, it's stonker to start with, that's for sure.
We're going to move on.
First billboard, Brian, and first piece of work we're talking about.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Double bubble.
Are we going to come down for that? Well, I'm going to let Dan take over and introduce the next one, which is equally brilliant.
Classic FM. And you're at BST at this point, I think?
Yeah, I was at BST, Base Fair Sharky Trot at the time, yes.
And obviously, you're clearly in the zone here, getting some very striking work out there and thinking about these billboards. So talk us through this one and talk us through how you got there as well.
Well, this again was another great brief. I mean, the client wanted to sell or target a different audience with classical music. I mean, basically, as we know from the UK, I don't know if people know in the States, but classical music was a little bit niche in the UK as regards, it felt like it was, school professors or posh people or people. Now, it was a certain type of people listened to it. Not that was always the case, but it had a sort of a bias from people who always sort of it wasn't cool to listen to classical music. It wasn't something you wouldn't click. It was like putting on Radio 4 in the UK and listening to the Archers. It wasn't seen as as cool. And I think the client wanted to again reach a younger target audience and make it not, I don't think it's cool, but just make it more approachable. Just like listen to classical music is so diverse, it's so different. Why don't you just sell it to a different kind of audience? And that was the brief. And what was quite interesting about the brief as well was you would have thought that the brief would have been more sort of audio or audible, but the client wanted to do posters and print at the time. And what's interesting about that, of course, is there's no sound. You can't. You're not actually selling any kind of sound or any kind of emotion through music. So we had to try and think of a way of doing that via a still image, I suppose, or still images, and trying to capture what classical music is. So I suppose that's where we started. And I worked with a couple of writers on this, and I think that's where. That was the starting point, and then we started thinking about what is classical music, and it's very different as a genre because there's so many different emotions. I know we have rock and pop, but classical has it's up and down, it's loud, it's calm, it's emotive, it has so many emotions attached to it. So we started to immerse ourselves once again into. I went to listen to lots of classical music. Right. And then I did visit it was a strange story, actually. I did visit, I think I was working in Tottenham Court Road. There was a big music shop there. And I went in there a couple of times. The first time I went in there was a guy in there. And I started looking around at instruments. I was looking, not necessarily picking them up, looking around, just looking at what the instruments look like. I mean, obviously, I want to get, around this music shop. So I went in there, I spent a few minutes and left. And I went back the second time and did the same thing, and the third time I went back with a Polaroid camera. And I started walking around, and I think I went to take a picture, and the guy said to me, he ended up being a guy called Jeff, really nice guy, and he said, can I help you? And I said, oh yeah, I just wanted to can I take some pictures of your instruments? He said, any particular? I said, no. And he said, well, I don't mind, can I ask you what you're doing? And I think maybe in hindsight, I thought, do I have some kind of musical instrument fetish? I goes around to taking pictures of random instruments and sort of. And I thought, so I told him what I was doing, and he was very sweet. He said, "Yeah, of course you can." So he brought certain things out, and I took pictures, and just to sort of try and get an idea of, is there a way visually to sort of bring this sort of this story to life? What are the instruments that is saying something? What's the emotion there? If we look at them in a different way.
And Brian, did you have those words first? So we're looking at power, exhilaration, peace.
No, they came really when we started to look at the instruments. And I mean, going back to Classic FM as well, from an art direction, not Classic FM, going back to Eurostar, from an art direction point of view, I always want to keep things really pure and simple and clean. With this, I started sort of putting images of, pasting images of the instruments together, like cutting them up and just doing things, especially with power, when we started to put the instruments together, and I thought, oh, this almost looks like a power station. It was almost by default. Amazing. And then you realise that the word that associated with this was power and powerful music. So it was the image and then the line to bring that image to life. So it was again. It was.
Which was the first one, Brian? Which was the first one you nailed?
The first one was power, I think. Was the first one nailed.
So just for our listeners, power is the headline, just one word, and then it's a series of brass instruments and woodwind kind of put together, so it looks like some sort of mega factory.
It's an engineering feat.
What is it? Like a sort of huge...
It looked like a power station. It was
power station, sorry.
I remember, going on trains or going through the countryside and seeing these giant, monoliths in the middle of the countryside that had chimneys and power and all metal and things going, from one end to the other that were all curled and curved, and I don't know, but it was a sort of an interpretation of that.
So did you? How far did you go down the line before you, thought, how am I going to shoot this, and who's going to shoot it? Because you got Nadav Kanda, who's one of the greatest advertising photographers out there. Did you? So if you went, right, my one-line brief is, I'm going to art direct instruments to evoke a power station. I'm going to shoot it really low down, crunch the blacks. Nadav, was it something like that, or?
Yeah, well, it sort of wasn't, because initially I felt I wanted to keep this black and white and clean, and I think that was really probably came from I was using at the time. I was just like using photocopied images. So and I knew Nada from before. I'd shot him before, and we talked about it. And I remember when we were putting these together, we also talked about do we need to put a technique on it? Do we need to add something? Like he'd done a lot of beautiful silk cut posters and other stuff that had like a different kind of. He was great at pushing images to give them like a unique feel. And I remember we discussed it when we were actually putting these things together. We also discussed, as I said, do we need to add a texture to it? Do we need to add some kind of color to it? I always remember thinking, or reverting back to the rough layouts I did, and thinking I almost want to keep it really classic, simple,
and they're wonderfully graphic and like you said, the simplicity is coming through. They're just a thing of beauty. I think the black and white makes it even.
I think it also came from the logo, Dan. I think also the logo was it was always on white. Every time I saw it, it was that classic typeface. It was very simple. I thought it needs to be on white, and I didn't know where that logo was going to be at a particular time. But then when we started to art direct it, we realised that where it was going to be, and it seemed right to keep it really simple. And as I said, classic and just really, really classic.
You must have. Oh God, did you do others? Because for me, I've got to quickly put my hand up here. So I do listen to classic. So I have my rules. So Saturday morning, Classic FM till midday, then it's got to get off because the football comes on.
Right.
Radio 4 in the evenings
for the Archers.
If I had a bit of big night and I need to calm down. But I'm sort of looking at this exhilaration. It's fucking brilliant. It's a roller coaster, but it's a harp. Is it? It's something. There's something really exciting and exhilarating, and yet it's for this thing that for old duffers, Classic FM. So you've managed to do both, haven't you? You've made it classic, and there's no way the people who listen to the show aren't going to knock that, aren't going to be against it.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think that's a good point as well, Hugh. It wasn't trying to make it like get a completely new audience. It was also making the people who listen to it realize that what they listen to is we understand what you're listening to, and it and you're not trying to get a new audience to drive you away from listening to classic FM or classical music. So that's a good point, and I suppose that's what goes back to keeping it sort of pure and trying to capture.
We're looking at the Peace one now, which is so lovely, just a lovely cropping of a violin, top of a violin.
Yeah,
maybe.
It was a violin head,
Did you? We're always asking for more. Did you do any others which never made it, or were these there was 4 we've got here? The saxophone.
I think there was more. I think we did. I think I did more. But I think as I said, Peace was interesting because I just wanted. I love negative space on posters. I just love the idea of it almost being. Like I hate the word, like a piece of art. But it sounds very highbrow, but just something really simple, very clean, very beautiful, and almost let's not fill the space sometimes.
Well, also, I think what that does, it evokes the station and the music, because a lot of the music is very, very, fragile. There's sometimes like the lark ascending. That's a very beautiful, gentle piece of music, but it's so fragile. It's like white space, it's not like fucking shouting and listen to this and, it's not that stuff. So in a way, your art direction, I think it's very reflective of the product. The Power one, it's like, that's going to be the full orchestra banging,
Yeah, and that was intentional. We wanted that to fill the poster more, whereas Peace, we wanted it to be quieter as opposed to the poster quieter. Yeah. So a little bit of method in the madness, I suppose, as we're going through it. I mean, I think that's what happens when you start working through things. I think you have the idea in your head, but then you start working, and then you start working with the images, and then you realise that you're thinking more about what you're trying to evoke or what you're trying to say.
We've got to move on to another one because we haven't got loads of time. But what I did like about what you said is what happens to all of us in this industry is you go, you go in and some bloke thought you had a fetish for musical instruments. And it's like that and everything in it. You suddenly become really interested in chewing gum or, I don't know.
Alex Turner out buying 200 pairs of scissors for silk cut. Yeah.
Nice link, actually, Dan. Because Dan now linked us back to Saatchi's and the Army and Alexandra Taylor.
Oh, the Army, right. Okay.
So we're going to talk about another new agency. You're at Saatchi and Saatchi. So you've moved around a fair bit, just even the time in England, which I imagine is very stimulating, different people, different brands, different cultures. But when you got to Saatchi's, I imagine it must have been pretty exciting working on the Army, right?
Yeah, I think Saatchi's in general was amazing for me because it had a culture of, I love craft and art direction and typography, always have. And you got to Saatchi's and they were doing, and as well, because you were there, and the amazing people there over the years, done amazing work. I mean, multiple awards, but the art direction was always pushed by amazing creative directors and typographers, you have Roger Kennedy and you have Alexander Taylor and multiple other people who are just always trying to push to get the most, not let's say, I suppose it was award-winning work, but the most unusual, different, look at things differently. So I was so thrilled to be there, and then to be inspired by the people who were there as well. And I think that was great about Saatchi's is everyone was very open. It was you push yourself because everyone was doing such great work.
Yeah, I mean, it was when we had Alex on, we talked about the Army 4X and Silk Cut, which was just it's absolutely mental amazing. How brilliant and all at once and that is why Saatchi's will always be, renowned. Yeah. The ones we're looking at, they're probably not quite as well known as other ones, but are these recruitment ones? You've got night school, drama school, real life drama school. So they're plays on classic recruitment ads, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with these, I mean, a lot of the Army was where recruitment ads tended to be, but I think this was very specific about certain diplomas and degrees you could actually get in the Army. So it was very targeted, and I think so. I mean, it really was for sort of younger people to sort of see the Army as a sort of an alternative way of furthering their educational choices. Yeah, just make it seem like, but make it seem like the Army. Looking through the lens of the Army, it was more dramatic. It was more exciting. So we wanted to use the sort of lines that you use normally when you go to further education, like we're going to night school, we're going to do higher education. Those things that we use, I don't use the same sort of terms in the US. They probably, I'm sure, use night school, but further education, things like that. We just wanted to use those, but just give them a bit of a twist and show what the Army's view or your view would be like on the Army if you decided to do those things. So
and the point of it is the Army help you go through those qualifications, right? As you recruit,
the
and they will help you.
But you get a life experience. You get something that you can go to college, you can go to night school and sit in a room with 50 other students. But night school in the Army is sitting on a range, looking, doing war maneuvers with tanks at night and through night goggles and things like that. It was so much more exciting. So that was a really simple premise, just getting those lines and then looking through, like I said, the lens of the Army, like push yourself further. Education was something where we wanted to do this. The whole campaign was about you being the person. The same with the Army. The Army always had that sort of a POV of putting you in a position of being in the Army. Yeah. Whether you're on saving someone from a helicopter, which was higher education, or whether you are, in a war-torn area. So that was the idea.
And the photography of them, Brian, was that done using Army stock, or was it all shot specific for the campaign around the line?
That was all shot specifically. We used a photographer, a great photographer. It was so this is all done on location. We in all the shot, the Army had a huge
garrison town, isn't it? Aldershot.
Yeah,
it's not far from me.
So I used an amazing photographer. It was called Zed Nelson. Nelson did a book many years ago. He was a great photojournalist. He did a book called Gun Nation. It was actually about the the gun situation in the US. I was quite a few years old now, but it was an amazing book. It was all black and white. It was beautiful. He went on the States and just showed, how crazy or not crazy guns are in the States. But it was great, and he was great, and he really wanted to shoot these as these would definitely not stop. We wanted to reshoot all these and create these scenarios. So we spent a week down there. So they have things like, so for Push Yourself Further education, there was like some kind of swamp river type thing. So we had all army extras. We could use all the army. Wow. So they're great about it. So we obviously had to plan all this, and it was it's not that easy just to turn up at an army base and say let's grab those 4 soldiers over there and we'll do a shoot.
Did you find yourself in a swamp or a helicopter at all? Or?
I found myself in that swamp as well, because I was with most of it. I was in the swamp walking with them. Good lad. Well, the helicopter was interesting because a few years before that, I did a Royal Navy campaign, and I had to do a helicopter crash course, as it is crash. So they had to go in a helicopter, those simulators.
No. Oh yeah,
shit. They put you in a helicopter, simulated helicopter with like 4 or 5 people. And they immerse it or crash it into a swimming pool with divers in there.
No.
We do it 4 or 5 times, and they flip it and they turn it 360 degrees and those sort of things. You're not allowed to get out.
You did that. You did that.
I did that. Absolutely terrifying.
That's in Officer and a Gentleman. That's how he fails him, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying. And I remember the last time when it was fully immersed, 360 degrees. And you have to get out in the right order. And I was the last one out. And if you move, you have to do it again, because you could easily get your head kicked by the person in front of you. So you have to wait. And it was pretty terrifying. But I had a certificate, which I think I ended up losing. But I had that certificate, and the army accepted it for me to do.
So you could.
Someone looked at me and thought, "Who is this? What's this guy doing with a helicopter?" And I said, "I've just worked for the Royal Navy," and said, "Okay." So, and I went up in a helicopter to shoot there. So yeah, that was. So it was a great experience just to work the army.
Well done. I've got to say that is, I've never heard that amount of dedication from an art director. That's proper.
Go and get the helicopter safety course done before you.
I'll tell you what's great about advertising is they put you in positions which are amazing. You'd never do that normally. So
you should write a recruitment ad for the advertising community now. All the things that Brian's done to get on set. Yeah,
that's quite a good title. All the things that Brian's done. I fucking like that. That's a great podcast.
I always remember when we were doing as a side thing, I always remember when we did the helicopter crash course at the Navy. I remember we sat in the room and we were being briefed, and I said to the guy next to me, I said, "Have you done this before?" He said, "Yeah, we have to do it every year, and I hate it." Right. I thought, "Oh my God, if he hates it."
Right, Brian, because time's limited.
Okay.
I really want to talk about Harrods, because I'm sure there's a good story there. We could just very quickly talk about 18 to 30. There were a couple of posters which are
different time, different place.
Different time, different place.
Would we get away with them now? Let's think.
Wouldn't get away with them now. No, you would not.
No, but I just imagine you were, the client was very into, controversial advertising, and
Yeah, it was, and also, people in the States, the 18 to 30 was a holiday. We used to call them package holidays in the UK. A holiday company that used to. I don't know, it's still going now. It was for 18 and 30-year-olds, and it was basically sun, sea, and sex. It was
kind of Love Island before Love Island, right?
Very good point.
It was Love Island before Love Island, yeah.
Or is it more the in-betweeners?
Yeah, maybe.
Probably.
But I think we talked with Ant and Mike actually quite a bit about 18 to 30. I think it's
they're
They are.
This was the year after that, I think. So it was hard to. You'd never beat those.
Oh, it's a nightmare. They got in and out at just the right time, Mike.
The montage ones, yeah.
So Harrods. So we're going to talk about this. The headline: Britain's 10 best tailors, one room, and the title of the ad is "Stitch That," which I think is brilliant. So it's such a good idea. This it's all the famous tailors in one room, but they've all been having a bit of a scrap. I'm just describing this in case the listeners don't know it. We'll put it up on our socials and on the website. Tell us how this came about. And how did he do it? Because it's just fascinating. It's a great idea, but it's been brilliantly pulled off. Sort of thing. If you got it wrong, it would look shit, but it looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was head of art on this.
Okay, head of art, right?
Yeah, and I worked very closely with the
okay.
Jules Charlie and Nick Simmons,
right?
And they were great. So we worked a lot together to create this, and and I think it was a great idea. But the actual the planning of it and getting it together was quite difficult. And I did the shoot. I mean, both the guys were busy, but they ended up being on the shoot as well. But it was a lot to figure out. But it was as you said, it's a great idea. It's just a simple idea. I mean, the idea that we're going to create this British tailoring room at Harrods, and we're going to get all these designers in one room. So we're going to physically do the shoot where they're all in one room. But obviously, as you said, they've had a bit of a set to, a bit of a fight, because they all think they're the best.
And how I get serious Anchorman vibes from the idea, where there's the scene in Anchorman where Channel 1 News and Spanish speaking news and Channel 5 News all get together and have a scrap in the car park. I get that kind of funny. I think there's a bit of the comedic value in here from Nick and Jules that have gone, right, there's a bit of a story here. Did you
if they did it now, they'd go, oh, Oswald Boateng is not around and Vivian's blah, blah, blah. But did you have them all in the same room at once?
No, we didn't.
Damn, you've ruined my dreams there.
Sergeant Pepper's,
that was. So the idea was also to shoot it like a Vanity Fair.
Yeah, Sergeant Pepper's. Good show.
Like the Oscar Vanity Fair.
Yeah.
Fine, but no, it's actually quite interesting because some of them didn't get on with each other.
Yeah, genuinely.
Oh, really?
We had to find out who was going to turn up and what. They had to organise who was going to be in the same room at the same time. So I think so they weren't all there together. So we had to shoot them separately. We shot them standing up and sitting down. But
that's just really funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I think we had Oswald Boateng and Paul Smith turn up together, and a couple of others. We had to stagger it. I think Vivian Westwood turned up. I mean, she was amazing just to have there because she was obviously the only female, but she turned up, entered the room, and we asked them to bring, smart tailored wear, not too, not too crazy. She turned up wearing, her dress was fairly simple, but she had these flashing devil horns.
Right.
Amazing. She was so good. She was really cool. She said, "Do you want me to take my flashing devil horns off?" I said, "No. You please keep them on, Vivian. You're absolutely fine." We thought they were so bizarre. But so cool. So we, so she was great. She got with most people.
But they're not. Are they on there? Oh yeah, they are there.
They're on there. If you look closely, you couldn't see them because they're quite small. If we did a close up, you see them. She's got tiny little devil horns. On her head.
Yeah. And then did you do because the makeup is brilliant. The makeup is really. I mean, the whole thing is brilliant. Makeup's brilliant.
Great makeup artist. Yeah.
And how long? If you were staggering them, was that awkward? Because you would what? How long would it take to make them up and then get them ready? And was it quite stressful, sort of getting them all?
Yeah, it was quite stressful. I mean, it was, we tried to plan it out. I mean, we tried to plan it out as we had a whole day. So what was hard was obviously trying to picture the image without everyone as one image. So, moving them around, making sure they looked angry or a bit aggressive. And, it's so difficult. Let's we have you standing over here, and then eventually we put them all in the positions we thought they looked best. And I think some people didn't want to be stood next to certain people as well. So
I mean,
it's so bizarre. Isn't it?
And then you say you made the cover of Archive magazine, which is definitely worthy of an award. That is one of the most revered magazines in the world. So well done on that. I mean, I imagine it picks up awards as well around the world.
Yeah, it got in D&AD, and I think it won Post Awards, and I think it was. But yeah, it was a great.
It's a bit of I have to say, it's a bit of a departure because I looked up, went into D&AD this morning, typed in Harrods. And it used to have all that lovely Tim Delaney stuff, the sale, which is beautiful, very sophisticated. And then you turn up with a fucking punch up. Was it a different client, different times?
It was. I think it was a different client. and I think we wanted to do something, and it felt very British. I think almost having a fight,
having a punch up.
We're so angry with each other, and I think we tried to do something with the type as well. I think we did a little bit of design with a little pin in there, but we wanted to keep the whole thing quite. Well, I think what was nice was that contradiction of it. It was a really beautiful photograph. It was very sedate, but you looked, they're all covered in blood and cuts. It was just a really British.
Who shot it, Brian?
The guy was called.
Hold on, I've got it. I should know. McKay. Someone McKay.
Finlay McKay.
Finlay McKay. Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Finlay, if you're listening.
He was great. Yeah.
I think we're going to talk about New York Casino now, but I just want to say, there is such a theme in your work of just the utter simplicity and then the utter dedication.
Visual simplicity.
Yeah, it's rare. You've got so.
And we didn't dwell on the 1830s, but you can see those posters on the feed. But the simplicity of moving a letter or two around just to tell the story and to get the message across. That theme has run all the way through the work that we've looked through today. Yeah,
and no different now. We're looking at New York taken over by New York Casino. When was this, Brian? What were you doing? Was this one of your first things?
This is it was at DDB around. I think it was 2015.
Right.
Yeah, DDB New York. That was one of the first agencies. It was great. I mean, obviously the Madman agency and working there, it was still the same office as it had been.
Wow.
Years. That was great to actually get the opportunity to work there. And this was a poster campaign. There was a New York casino, and they were trying to tell people, we have a casino in New York. Why are you going to travel anywhere else? Just don't do it. It's all here. It was as simple as that. And I think what we tried to do, they were a tough client. I mean, usually those sort of posters are people having a great time at a slot machine, smiling and cheering, and at a roulette table. That's what they've been used to. Right. And we said, can we do something slightly different that sort of captures that spirit of don't leave, it's all here for you, but more with a visual hook that's a bit more.
Yeah, and the iconography of it all, it's all very New York, isn't it? The skyline, the bridge, the subway. Yeah. It feels like it's at home in New York.
Yeah, that was the intention, and also just to obviously capture those points of New York, don't leave using the bridge and don't fly out. And just sort of saying it's all here, but again, the logo for the casino was quite retro. It had a very sort of almost like an Art Deco feel to it.
Yeah, and that's sort of peacock of it's almost like the NBC peacock, isn't it?
Yeah, it did. Again, from an art direction point of view, it sort of lent itself to the look and feel, which I wanted to keep almost like the casino feel, like that green baize of we call it the green cloth of the table, that on the graphic nature of just all the graphics they use in casinos. Obviously, we use cards and we use dice, but it was just trying to make it feel like a casino. The aesthetics, keeping the aesthetics.
It's very like we said, very clean, very graphic. It's really striking. I mean,
some of the craft elements of it tearing through the cloth as well of the table. With the airplane tearing through the cloth and
it's
train.
It's lovely, Brian. Sorry, because we only got 7. Have we got 7 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got 7 minutes. So we need to wrap up and talk about your favourite billboard, Brian, or billboards. I think there's 2 here.
There is 2. Yeah, I think that. Do you want me to carry on?
Yes.
Yeah,
go for it, my man.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. I mean, I think there've been so many great billboards out there, and it's so difficult to pick 2. But I think the one that always stands out for me was the Rhino for Silk Cut from Saatchi's.
Yeah.
And I think this is just a beautiful poster. I mean, Silk Cut, people don't know, in the US is a cigarette brand. I mean, we can't do cigarette advertising now, but it was the brand was called Silk Cut, and it was a white pack with a purple square on there. It was called Silk Cut. So they did this campaign where they used the idea of cutting silk, and it was so simple and iconic. And we didn't even. I mean, it wasn't about people smoking cigarettes. It was just making this brand beautiful and iconic. I think that's what he did. I think the Rhino one is just amazing. It's like a piece of art on a billboard, and I think that always inspired me from the stuff I was doing was keep it clean, keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS, KISS.
I mean, it's a worthy sort of follow-on of your deck. We're looking at it. It could easily be for you.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Alexandra on, and she talked about this, and she talked about how the eye. So she went on about the eye. She kept saying there's something slightly wrong with the Rhino, and they put a tear on the Rhino, didn't they?
Really?
And it made it, have an element of humanity. And that was the level of craft she would go in, and it was so true. And it is one of our favourites. It's the audacious hat, which stretches all the way across the Rhino and beyond. It's a fucking great poster, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant poster.
It's surreal. It's like it should be in an art gallery. That's how. I think that's what a poster to me was always going to be like. A poster is, it's like a blank canvas and saying you're going to put your blank canvas not in a walled gallery. You're going to put it out there for the world.
Well,
but I can see that in the Classic FM Power one as well, Brian. That the idea of seeing something from a different perspective and the simplicity of the image and the graphic nature of a simple photograph. You can see how that's influenced your work as well. So
there was a thing we asked Nils. We asked some of our most famous guests what makes a great poster, and Nils said this great line, something about it should be hanging in a gallery in 2 weeks' time. That kind of, that ambition not to just do a fucking poster, but to do something worthy.
Similarly, Tutzel said that, the streets is our theatre and we're after a standing ovation. It's that same mentality of what we're after from a piece of work.
Yeah,
and Niels loves a bit of negative space as well.
Yeah, he does.
He's a typographer, so that's his background as well.
Yeah.
And your second favourite that we're looking at is for Mercedes-Benz.
Yes, I love that. I thought it was a poster, no words. Again, like Silk Cut, no words. It just encapsulates everything for me. It's a car ad. It's it just. I think what it has it stops you because you put it together.
Yeah, you have to work it out. It's nice, isn't it? There's a.
It's so, and I love the fact. I also, the more I looked at it, the fact that the Mercedes itself, which is the star of the poster, was actually shot in shadow.
Yeah.
Which I think is even better. The skid marks where cars have stopped to admire it in sunlight. It's just it's beautifully done. It's beautifully crafted.
If anyone hasn't heard the episode where we've talked about this exact shoot and the process of getting that shot, do listen in, go back and listen, because there's a great story about them having the photo taken, everything being pulled down for the end of the shoot, and then the light suddenly changed and they wanted to go back up and get the shot again because the light was perfect all of a sudden. So they went up and did it again. They were looking for that golden hour shot. And then the kind of clouds came in and they started, they kind of broke and went, right, let's break down the camera. And then the light changed again. So they rushed up there and got a shot again, which is the end one that they've used. So really good story. And you can hear more about this on the on that episode.
Yeah, it's a good, I think all these great billboards and posters we talk about, there is always something. I mean, Brian, going right back to the beginning on your ones, oh God, saying that you went over there and you got the wrong angle.
Yeah, and you have to go shoot again, right?
I started getting really anxious just hearing that, because imagine showing your boss like Droger or Russell, or like, what? You've done what? Fucking hell. But then the dedication of, like, now, someone might go, oh, fuck it, well, let's just figure it out and retouch and don't go back, you know. But the dedication, like Dan's saying, no, we're going to go back and get that shot. The light is now perfect. That's what sets the work apart, I think.
Yeah.
It really does.
We're drawing to a close, and I think there's been a consistent tip all the way through your episode, Brian, but we're going to allow you to deliver it one more time, I think, with the tips for great billboards.
Tips for great billboards for me is, I think we said it's keep it simple. I've always thought keep it simple, keep it minimal. Of course, billboards to me have always been an amazing opportunity. I mean, we have to sell a brand, we've got to tell a story. I think you've also got to create an emotional reaction. You've got to have impact. And our job is to obviously to change behaviour. So that's our job. I always say keep it simple, and that phrase came actually from the U.S. Navy in the 60s. They coined that phrase, but graphic, beautiful, distill it down to the essence of the story. Less work.
I mean, we're really sorry we haven't, because we only got a certain amount of time with this transatlantic, airwaves. They're quite expensive. But I would just want to say thank you so much for coming on. It's been like an education.
Yeah, it's been brilliant.
Hearing you talk, Brian. It's been brilliant.
It's brilliant.
It's been absolute pleasure. It's great to see you again, Hugh, and meet you down.
Yeah, well, I'll be in New York in a couple of weeks, so we'll go for a beer and we can talk more about posters then.
Take him to that casino. He likes it. Likes a bit of time.
Don't do that. No, the house always wins.
All right, take care, Dan.
Thank you.
Dan. Brian.
Oh, see you, Hugh.
See you, mate.
Right. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you,
take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. So that was good. That was quite quick, wasn't it? It feels like quite.
It was, but it went quick. But we did a whole hour. It's great. It's such good work, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't stand up the whole time.
I know. How's your back?
Yeah, it's good sitting here looking at you. I'm in love again.
Polishing your FA Cup winners medal.
Yeah. Well, we had to bring that up, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We will do more football on another episode. We don't waste.
I mean, the Euros kicks off. Well, actually, by the time this goes out, the Euros will be kicked off. England will be out.
England will be out. We've got to play home. No, come on, get positive vibes. I am just a bit worried about we haven't got a defence, but
we haven't got a defence.
Yeah.
I mean, well, we're going back to Spurs, as it always does. It's the Ozzy Ardiles School of Football that we're going to be playing in the Euros, right?
So
we'll score more than them. 6-5, we're going to win.
It's funny. It's not joking. This episode will be out after.
I know. After we're out. After Serbia and Slovenia have beaten us 4-0.
Anyway, everyone might still be drunk if we won it, or everyone might still be drunk that we came out after the group stage.
Should we record two different endings,
and decide? 50.
Yeah, decide. Yeah. We're still in. It's the final in a couple of weeks. I can't believe it.
Fucking hell, we went out to Slovenia. Fucking hell. Anyway, so Brian was lovely. That was great. Thank you, Brian, for coming on. And sorry it felt short. Hopefully it wasn't. And good luck in America with everything you're doing. It looks like you're very busy out there, mate. But yeah, please, everybody, tune in, follow us on the socials.
And don't forget that actually, by the time this goes out, you will be able to buy Hugh's book, right? So every single one of you that listens, both of you that listen, I mean, please go and buy Hugh's book to get it popped up on the charts.
Well, we could do, I hate to say, I was going to pitch, can we do a Behind the Billboard special? Because I think I'm going to get a billboard from Ben Hope at Clear Channel.
Oh, Ben Hope. I love Ben Hope.
We love Ben.
I'll see him next week.
Okay, say hello, but we're in the future now. So
yes.
You saw him.
I saw him last week.
Oh, shit. Anyway, we will talk about the book at some point.
Should we do a little extra episode of a picture of you behind your own billboard?
I know. And
it's going to be amazing.
Then you can do a lot of research on it and ask me loads of awkward questions.
Yep. So yeah, buy Hugh's book.
Okay, thank you.
He's the new sponsor for this episode.
Hugh's book.
What's it called, Hugh?
It's called It Happened in Clissold Park.
And where can someone get it? You
can get it on Amazon. You can get it at WH Smith's, Waterstones, and lots of other little shops. I've been in begging them to stock it, but it's 12 interlinked stories. The one-line synopsis is Love Actually meets Shortcuts in a North London park. So it's not too long. You can take it to the beach. You can give it to someone for Christmas.
And you could give it to someone before they go off to Cannes Lion for the week as well, couldn't you? I think you've got something for me, haven't you? A signed copy.
I forgot it.
Oh.
But because we're in the future, it doesn't matter.
I actually do have it now. I've read it now. Actually, in the future, I've read it.
What did you think?
I thought it was really good, I think.
If anyone's
I really hope I really liked it.
I really hoped you really liked it, and I got $9.99 for it. I'll bring it. Honestly, I'll come.
What I'm hoping is I'm going to have read it by the time I land in Cannes, and I can give it to someone really important, right? Who will then start tweeting about it. And now we're in the future. Yeah. It's top of the charts, and you're a millionaire,
and I'm not here.
You're not here anymore. You fucked off and writing a second book.
I live in Monaco. I'm on a yacht. Right, we've got to stop this because no one's listening.
Yeah, everyone's switched off now.
Thank you, Talon, once again.
Yeah, thanks, Talon. Thanks, Grand Visual. Follow us on social, do all the right things, and comment away on other people that we should be talking to, because it's always good to hear from you all.
Yeah, and thank you, Soho Radio, once more. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye then.
Bye.